the numbers all go to 11.
I'm talking about bands that rock. Led Zeppelin. What about Sabbath? AC/DC. Motorhead.
Does that mean it's louder? Is it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it?
We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
Please go to 11.
I get up off the ground and raise my head. Days like this, think I should be dead. One for Satan, two for me. Let's cheat the devil, it's fun, don't you agree?
Welcome to the Nothing Shocking Podcast. I'm your co-host, Bob Zarrell. I'm alone this week, and that's right. We are somewhat back for the time being, and probably the long time being, or the distant, I don't know what the right word is, the right phrase. We will still do episodes. It just won't be as regular as it used to be. We still have guests that want to come on. I'm actually sitting on 2 episodes now. This is one of them. Our guest this week is Clint Lowery from Sevendust. He's got a new solo album out called Bless the Renegades. And I don't know if you've heard it or not, but I have, and it's been out. I love it a lot. I think this is one of the better solo projects that's out there, and I think a lot of them are good. I don't know, I think this could be big for him. I think some of these songs have radio potential, and I could see him, this being a bona fide, band and project that goes on and not competes with, but when Sevendust is down, this can go and be a real thing. And, they just finished a tour with Alter Bridge, is going out with Starset. It's just a very cool thing to see. It's always cool when you can see an artist kind of be successful. Clint wrote on the last Godsmack album, which was one of their most successful in recent years. So he's got a lot of good things going, and I did this interview back in November of 2019, and because we were down, I just never had a chance to release it, and now I'm doing it. I'm releasing it now. So back when this interview was done, I think the song Kings had come out, and that was it. The album wasn't out yet, so it was fun. Clint was one of my first interviews when I first started doing all this stuff. Just one of my favorite guitar players of all time. I think him and Mark Tremonti and Mike Mashaka-Stained really kind of paved the way for that era of guitar players. I mean, if you listen to bands like Breaking Benjamin and Shinedown, and they kind of came after them, they definitely are influenced by that Sevendust Creed Stained kind of style, So I don't know, I'm a big fan, and it was an honor to talk to him, and I'm glad I can finally get it released. I do want to say we've been gone so long, I don't know if any of our sponsors want to admit they're sponsors anymore, but I will say Legends Picks, they've been with us from the beginning. They made our podcast picks, so I do want to mention them. And then Ragged Records, I'm a big fan of their store in Rock Island right now. So, we are at No Shock Pod on Twitter. We have a Facebook page, the Nothing Shocking Podcast community fan page, I think it is. Subscribe to us there, like the page, friend us. We are also on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Alexa, Stitcher, all your podcatchers. Rate and review the show if you can. Review the show. It does help us out. And like I said, hopefully you hear more episodes, somewhat regularly, but for the time being, at least through March, probably into April, it's going to be pretty sporadic, and maybe even longer than that. But there will be the occasional interview that pops up. So I hope you enjoy what we do get out there. And without further ado, here is my interview with Clint Lowery of Sevendust.
Way to go, Bobby!
How you doing, man?
Great, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. You got the new album coming out January, God Bless the Renegades. The new single, King's, out now. When you go into a project like this, do you have the concept in mind, the sound in mind, or do you just kind of start with a clean slate?
I definitely have. I've had a couple of things that came out over the past few years that, alluded to a solo project. I knew I wanted to be different from Sevendust.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, because the whole point of doing something on the outside is stretch your creative, horizons. But I definitely had a sound and a certain thing that I kind of developed over the years, and I had a bunch of different material for this record, and I just kind of got with Elvis, who produced it, just kind of went through found 10 songs out of the 40 that were kind of the ones that would best represent that first record. It's such a huge thing. That first body of work is what really creates your brand and creates your sound, and you never get that first impression.
Right.
Again, so I think this is, some of it wasn't as crazy and alternative as I initially was going for, but it definitely is a good bridge from what I do with Sevendust into this new territory.
Well, yeah, I know, definitely. I mean, King's sounds, it's a fantastic song. And I could, I'm always wrong. I don't know what success is in 2019, but it sounds like it could be a radio hit. But I'm sure anything you do could be molded into Sevendust if you really wanted it to be. Is that, what is the process of what goes on to this or a side project versus Sevendust?
Yeah, you're right. Some of the songs on this could, because Sevendust is kind of an open mind kind of thing. We're a heavy band, mm-hmm. but we can also venture into the more melodic side as we have with acoustic stuff. But, these songs, they're just, in terms of like going, what will be a Sevendust song? What would be this? It's just a lot of the separation, I think, is just Lejean. Lejean is such an identifiable element of Sevendust and the way Morgan plays drums. Mm-hmm. So there's a certain thing, like when those guys play, I could have done these songs with those guys, and it would be totally a Sevendust song, Right. But there was a thing, and that happened on the last record, but not original. Though that was the song that I'd written for my own thing. It ended up being a Sevendust song, so that's a good example of what would have happened. Had I sang on it as opposed to Lejean, he just automatically brings it to Sevendust territory. But this, I think these songs are a little quirkier, a little more alternative than Sevendust stuff.
You've never really shied away, from personal lyrics and themes in your music, whether it's, the stuff you brought to Sevendust or, Hello Demons, Meet Skeletons, Call Me No One, etc. But having heard the song Kings on the new album, I'm guessing this may be one of your more personal efforts to date. Am I off base with this being a more personal album?
No, it's all very much, reflective, looking at myself, kind of talking about my reaction, my feelings. And it's always very personal for me when I write lyrics. There's sometimes it can be a little vague, and it can be like more observational, mm-hmm. when I see, but it's all about how it affects me. If I write about what I feel and what I've actually gone through, I feel like the message is more authentic and more honest, and I think that people can sniff that out when you write about personal things. When you're able to, I have no problem putting those things out, the fears and the anger and the vulnerability of it. I don't have any problem doing that. There's a lot of power in it. It's always been the way that I process my life. When I feel good, I write about it. When I feel sad, I write about it. It's just one of those bonus benefits of being an artist. You get to express yourself and kind of relieve some of the pressure that builds up in yourself through the music. So I love writing about what really happens and how I really feel. I don't like sugarcoating it. Sometimes it's a little vague and a little cryptic, but for the most part, it's all sparks from a real original feeling or emotion.
And that's, you mentioned, you've always had that. That's not something you've had to learn over time. It's never been difficult to to get that personal or that deep or that honest? It's always been you've always had that gift?
Yeah, I mean, I've always been pulled to the people that do that, that are very vulnerable. People that sing with that true emotion, people that sing with, or they say something that is just like deep, very profound or very real. It makes me feel like, man, Trent Reznor has always been like, he's always put out this anger and this bitter, just kind of edge and the way he talks about things. And as a younger person, I always loved how he did that. And the song Hurt, there was in particularly a little bit of a vulnerable part of him. And I always thought that was cool. And I always wanted to kind of do, I wanted to incorporate that in my writing.
Does that ever, when you're on stage playing those songs, does those emotions ever come back up, or is it more you're just feeding off the crowd at that point?
No, they come back up, and especially when you see someone like an Angel Son or these other songs that they're crying, they're actually having an emotional response themselves. Then you realize the impact, and that makes you fall in love with the songs again. And you play them every night, you get bored, and you get kind of jaded. But then you'll see someone's reaction like that. You're like, man, this is doing something to them, and then it kind of recharges your enthusiasm levels, and it's just a cool thing to see. I want everyone to have an emotional response to the material. That is the realest, the most effective, and the one that has the most staying power. Are the ones that really affect you emotionally.
You've worked with Elvis on this one, and he's been part of some of my favorite albums over the last 10 or 20 years. What does he bring to a project like this? Is he a partner? Is he just, the guy in charge keeping you on line? Or, what does he bring what did he bring to this album, at least?
Yeah, he does both of those things. He keeps it all in line, keeps it reeled in. He beats out the weird oddities, the things that people won't connect with. He is a direct passageway to effectiveness. Like if we have an odd lyric or an odd word or an odd melody, he's like, I think it would be more effective if you kind of went straight at him with this. And he's a tremendous musical partner, and he's a true producer. He sonically, he can mix all day and he can make it sound huge and do all those things. But the thing that he really brings is vibe. Like he knows how to stack it all and build it all in a way where it's just every part is very impactful, or more impactful than in its original form. So he's one of the first producers that really produced. I mean, we all know there's a couple guys in our band that are producers. I can produce a band. But he is, he's been doing it for a long time. He knows how to get in the head of the artist and make them do what they do, but just do it better.
You've always sang on, since the beginning, but as a frontman and a guitarist, do you have to be conscious of the complexity of a riff mixed with the melody you're singing when you're writing, or do you just kind of cross that bridge when you start rehearsing for the live show? I mean, I'm asking that as like a guitar player who has a hard time singing and playing at the same time, unless it's like a certain mix and match. Is that something that you have to worry about, or is that more something you hammer out in rehearsals, or have you just kind of always had that gift?
No, man, you're on the exact same page as me, man. It's one of those things where I write the songs and I don't care about how hard it is to play and sing at the same time. But until I start rehearsing for it, and I'm like, oh man, thank God I got another killer guitar player. I'm going to play like the simplistic parts, because I lose something when I'm trying to play and sing at the same time. It's like rubbing your head or tapping your head and rubbing your stomach at the same time. It's just a thing. It gets easier the more you do it, the muscle memory, but it is, I find myself, I sing a little flat. I don't breathe right when I'm playing guitar. I'm like concentrating. Part of my brain is trying to figure out the fretting. Part of my brain is trying to figure out the melody. So when I sing without anything, it's a lot easier. So there'll be times where I'm just kind of like, no, I'm not singing, I'm not playing at all. I'm just singing, which would be cool, And yeah, it's definitely an art form.
When working on something like this, is there a part of it that's more challenging than the other? Like, I talked to Mark Tremonti when he first started doing Tremonti, and he said the part that really dragged him down, the cloud that hung over him was the solos. He didn't mind writing the lyrics, the riffs were there, but it was those solos hung over the top of him the whole time. Is there something that, is more stressful when it comes to a process like this, or do you just enjoy the whole thing?
I enjoy the whole thing, man. I'm obsessed with recording and stacking and layers and all those things. I mean, the challenges come with vocals for me. But what are you going to say and how are you going to sing it? That is way harder for me because it's very important. The vocals are super important. And automatically people are like, he's not the usual singer, so I'm going to be under a little more scrutiny. So I just really I didn't want to fall short, put together this cool music and then not sing it well or not find the songs that I sing. There's a certain niche and there's a certain thing that I will sing better than, there's songs that fit my voice.
Right.
There's songs that don't. So I have to find out where my strengths are.
Early next year, the guys in Alter Bridge are taking you on a tour with them, and I can't wait for this tour. And I'm not just saying that. I'm a big fan of that whole, both your bands, Sevendust, Alter Bridge, and all the side projects that go along with them. You guys have consistently knocked it out of the park across the board. Can we expect to hear, just this new album on the tour, or are you going to kind of span your entire career with your set?
I'm gonna do about 80% of my songs off this, and nice. I'm gonna add each night I'll have a song from Sevendust or Hello Demons Meet Skeletons or Call Me No One. I'll inject a few of those songs in there from time to time.
Well, that's awesome. I think I feel like obviously you're starting off new, but you are an established artist. People know who you are. I feel like that stigma of playing new music is, with every band knocking it out of the park lately, between Slipknot and Korn and Godsmack and Sevendust, the new songs seem to play, to go along with all the classics. I don't see people leaving and going to the bathroom during the new song like the stigma that used to be there. So I'm excited I can't wait to hear the album, but I'm excited to see that you are playing a lot of new stuff. That's exciting. With the meet and greets, that's become a new moneymaker for artists, and it's a really cool fan experience at the same time. I know some artists probably go through the motions, but for the most part, everyone I've gone on has been a pretty cool experience for the fans. How is it for the artists? Is it something you look forward to, or is it more of a necessary evil?
I have no problem with it. We've always been personable with our people, Mm-hmm. I mean, some days you're tired, some days you want to just kind of lay around, but for the most part, every time that we do those things, there's a really cool feeling actually getting to know the people, talking to them one-on-one. I think it's awesome. Every now and then you meet some people who are kind of quiet or nervous, and try to realize for them it's hard, on some levels,
Right.
They don't know what to say. So we try to make them feel as comfortable as they can, break the ice, crack a joke, just kind of hey, man, what's going on? What do you do for a living? Just kind of really have a moment with them. I try to treat them the way that I would want someone that I would like to meet. Try to do the same thing. I would, act as if, I'm try from their perspective, how would I want Kurt Reznor to be to me if I were talking to him, And it's just do that, and people like it, man, and you get a good connection with them, and those people will stay with you, man, the whole time. All you gotta do is give them a little bit of energy and give them a little bit of patience, and and they're all in, man.
That's one of the cool things about this era of music is it's due to social media and whatnot, the fans do have more access to their favorite artists, but one of the drawbacks is that you lose that mystique that Led Zeppelin had, or even Nine Inch Nails back in the day. You had to discover bands at record stores and read magazines and et cetera, et cetera. But at the same time, we also built these artists up and put them on pedestals, and it probably wasn't the most healthy thing either. But as a fan and as an artist, do you have a preference, the mystique versus the accessibility, or I don't know? You
know what, man? To be honest with you, I got to go with mystique. I mean, as a kid that never saw behind the scenes or what these people ate for breakfast, mm-hmm. or sometimes what happens away. I mean, there's some people that walk the walk and they talk the talk, and their lives are their artistry. But there's some that, I don't really, and I put a lot out there. I put a lot of my family and all that stuff. But there's a certain, I'm trying to, that's just who I am. That's what I care about. But I think there's a cool thing about it, and then there is the mystique is like what keeps the mystery there. You can decide in your mind, oh, I wonder what they're doing. You know, I used to sit there and think about what all these bands did on the time, and I always imagined it being this really cool stuff. And then you find out what they're really doing. Oh man, they're just, you know, they had a doctor's appointment and they broke their toe. Or, you know, it's like, no man, these people are they're like heroes, superhuman. You know, so there's like part of me that loves the mystique. You know, I think that's cool. I personally don't need to know I like to watch them because I'm just like everyone else. I want to see what they do. I want to see how they live. But I really think there's something magical about the mystery.
Yeah, and I think it also I honestly don't know how much time. They didn't give me a limit, so if you have to go, let me know. I know I'm hitting at the 15-minute mark. So,
no, that's all good. Yeah, I got to go soon. I got my wife getting ready.
All right, last question then. I mean, I feel like your era of the hard rock and, you know, the bands, they don't get the credit they deserve in terms of, like, legacy. And I think a lot of it's due to the accessibility versus the mystique. You know, a lot of bands, that new metal label, everybody shied away from it. But none of those bands went away. You know, Godsmack, Korn, you guys, Disturbed, they're all still around. You inspired the next round of bands, Breaking Benjamin, Nickelback, Shinedown. They never went away. You know, you didn't have that Motley Crue who disappeared for 10 years and comes back as a stadium act. You know, is that due to the fact, I mean, I feel like we take you guys for granted. Is that part of the strategy? This is a long way of me asking. Is this part of the strategy of, you know, sitting on the Sevendust album for a while to give it a break so that we have to miss you guys for a little bit to, you know, before you come back and tour again?
Yeah, I mean, it has to go away. It has to, and people have to realize too, and this is very serious, that Sevendust is going to start reeling back a little bit. I mean, we're going to tour and we're going to do, you know, things to keep the band alive, but there comes a time where like we're going to try to be a little bit pickier on how long we go out, when we go out. So it's one of those things we are very adamant about going out on our own terms and we have other lives outside of the band. We'll continue this. We have original members, which is very, very rare. So we want to make sure that we end on that there's no other people coming in and finishing out, and then it's just like LeJean one day by himself doing Sevendust. We want to end this with original members, you know?
Yeah.
But that's the thing. We're going to start dialing it back. We don't want to, you know, we're all going to be, you know, 5 years, we'll all be in our mid-50s, and, you know, we just kind of just realize that people need to realize that we aren't going to be around forever, but we want to preserve and keep the quality there. We want to be enthusiastic about it. We don't want to get on stage and burn it in. So breaks for us recharge the love of the game. You know, the very end of a 2-year cycle, we're burnt. No one's even wanting to get on stage, and that's not cool. That's not cool for the fans. That's not cool for the band. It's not cool for the management because they're hearing about it all the time. We have to be smart and play the shows that mean something and not burn out the fans.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree completely. I feel like that era of music, I just feel like we've taken advantage of, you know, because we can go see Korn every year. We can go see Slipknot but they take their breaks and they recharge, and, you know, then Godsmack comes out with a great album. Slipknot comes out with a great album. Sevendust, you know, it's, I think that's really important for that era because you guys aren't taking 10-year breaks, you know, like they used to have to do. But anyway, thank you so much for taking the time. I can't wait to hear the album. I'm definitely going to be at the show with Alter Bridge, either in the Illinois one or the Wisconsin one. I'm a big fan, and thank you so much for doing this with me.
My pleasure, man. I appreciate it. It was great talking to you.
All right. Take care.